Hi, it just means the world to me that the pastors of your churches have asked me to address you at this meeting, and I'm very excited to do so. They asked me to address 2 questions, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to give you 3 bits of advice, if that's all right. The 2 questions are pretty important questions. The first one is Redeemer still relevant? Is Redeemer still crucial? When we came here almost 34 years ago, as the Keller family, almost 34 years, we came knowing that we were moving into a place where, unlike at that time the rest of America, Christianity was really seen as not just even a neutral thing. It was actually seen as a bad thing. It was seen as something that really gets in the way of human flourishing. And when we got here, we had to both do our evangelism and we had to do our spiritual formation, building people up into Christ-likeness, in a very, relatively, to the rest of the country, hostile environment. Certainly not one that was conducive and welcoming at all. And as you all know, that kind of attitude toward Christianity, which wasn't really very prominent in the rest of the country, that was 34 years ago, that's changed. And now the same kind of antipathy to Christian beliefs and the same kind of antipathy to the Christian understanding of human nature and human destiny and God and morality, all of those things have now spread to much of the rest of the country. And so what happened over the years was that Redeemer, I remember thinking when I got here, I said, the things we're doing here are not going to be relevant to anybody else because Manhattan is so weird and so very, very different. But what happened over the years, as many of you know, is people looked at Redeemer and found many things that Redeemer did that now were relevant in Virginia, now were relevant in Pennsylvania, now were relevant in Arizona, and therefore Redeemer always was quite relevant. Well, get this, New York is still New York. Oh, it's limping because of the pandemic. It's got lots and lots of things that it's going to have to come back from. I've been here long enough to know that New York is resilient. It's going to stay one of the great cities of the world. And there will always be things that develop in New York that then spread to the rest of the world. And if Redeemer is here, doing evangelism, doing discipleship, if Redeemer continues to be a church, like we were in the beginning, a church not just for ourselves, but for our friends who don't believe in Christ, not just church as usual, but a church that's radically gospel-centered. If we really stay Redeemer, and there's no reason why we can't, we will still be not just able to reach people and change people's lives in New York, we will be most relevant to the rest of the world. That we'll still learn, we will still be able to share what we're learning with many other people, and Redeemer continues to be relevant. The second question that people have asked me to answer was, what should Redeemer do over the next 10 years? And here's what I think it should do. It should do what it's always done, and I just mentioned what some of those things are. But for the first time as a network, Redeemer did what it did as a megachurch. I think the biggest we ever got was about 5,500 people coming. And the idea was that we would multiply, that's a more positive word, and we multiplied into 3 congregations, and the idea was that then we would have 3 congregations a little more focused on their part of the city, each congregation a little more human scale in size, because a 5,000 or 6,000 member church was pretty amazing and overwhelming to a lot of people. More human scale, but at the same time, because we were working together, we still have the many, many ministries of the quality of a megachurch, even without actually having to be attending a megachurch. Now, the problem with that is that in the last 5-6 years, many, many things happened in the city. There are 2 pastoral transitions out of the 3. And for a lot of reasons, the network never really got off the ground. And yet now I think that's what we need to do. We need to do what Redeemer has always done, but for the first time, do what I've always thought was better even than when I was the pastor. I believe that to have 3 churches of 800 people is better than having 1 church of 2,400 people. I think you will find that the discipleship, the pastoral care, I will think the deployment of individuals in using their gifts, its ability to reach into their neighborhoods, honestly, a really close, loving network collaborative and cooperating network of 3 800-member churches is a lot better than one church of 2,400. And we're not going to just be 3 churches. We're already 5. And it won't be long before we'll be 6 and 7 and 8. And that excites me because a network that gives you human scale congregations where you attend, but that together can actually mount ministries that are megachurch in their quality is pretty exciting to me. So what we should do the next 10 years is to be a network and to continue to serve the whole city, not just ourselves.